Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FIDE Grand Prix in Berlin. It is the penultimate round, round 5 out of 6 in the group stages, and things are heating up, particularly in Group A. All eyes are on the comeback of Hikaru Nakamura after saving a borderline, totally lost position against Grigori Apaydin. He goes on to win the next game against Levon on demand, and now the whole section is up for grabs. In this round, we're going to take a look at all the games once again. The sun is shining really bright. I guess that just indicates it's going to be a really good recap. So we obviously start with Group A and the matchup between Hikaru and Apaydin. Hikaru's got to win as many games as he can, so he's got to play a forcing line. So he plays into the Nim. So if you want winning chances, gotta sometimes go into the main lines at this level. He plays queen c2, which is reinforcing the knight with the queen, and the idea is to trade and ultimately not damage your pawn structure. I muted myself so I could clear my throat and not have that in your headphones. Knight f3, dc, queen c4 again, apologies for the voice, b6, h4, allergies. Yes, you see this right. Hikaru rattles off 9h4. It seems like nowadays you can play h4 in any variation. The question is White going to play h5, h6? Is White just going to leave this here as a potential reminder to Black to not mess around, right? Speak softly, carry a big stick, or in the case of chess, don't speak at all over the board, but maybe still carry a big stick. We're about to find out. Queen moves out of the way of danger, takes on c5, and Black plays knight d7. Yes, you're seeing this correctly. Black is playing c5 and then not taking back, instead playing knight bd7 and allowing this pawn to actually walk. And I guess the point is that it's insane. These allergies driving me crazy. c6, rook c8, and Black just has really good development. I mean, every piece is out, and Black's argument is the fact that this pawn will be captured. You're not going to be able to defend it with White. Hikaru's like, all right, I mean, try to take my pawn. Knight d4, defending, right? So Black plays knight e5, which attacks this. Knight c6 is the idea, but now Hikaru plays rook d1. So now if you take, I'm going to go this way, and I double attack your queen and your rook. So queen e7, and here comes rook h3 from Hikaru. So it turns out that the idea of the move h4 several moves ago was not to push h5, h6. It was to go rook h3 later on in this game, and maybe rook e3, g3, f3, somewhere if this knight is not covering. This is incredible. I mean, honestly, like, what are we doing here? Rook h3, are you joking? And we have queen a4, h6, and Hikaru just takes like nothing's going on and picks up the pawn on a7. Wild position. Again, do not try playing like this at home. Hikaru has grabbed the a7 pawn, and now he's got to run away like Robin Hood, all right? Does Robin Hood run away, or does he fight? I don't know. Might have been a terrible example. Bishop a8, the bishop moves out of the way, and now, I mean, this is just... Welcome to chess in 2022. I mean, are you kidding me? What an idea. Rook h3, rook b3. The white king is just chilling in the middle. The bishop is chilling. They can't even move. It's been like 20 moves, right? Rook d8, rook d3. Now Hikaru's like, all right, I mean, listen, you can win my h-pawn. I'm going to play g3, and now my bishop can get out. And Apaydin's like, no, it can't. I mean, the queen's on h1. I mean, come on. What is this? What? Have you seen something like this before? Hikaru plays queen e7. Here, Hikaru could have played rook d8. Muted myself again. Hikaru could have played rook d8. And after this trade of rooks, king h7, he could have gone here, apparently. Ran out to d2, completely gave away the bishop, because if you take the bishop, queen f5 leads to mate. So he could have played like this, apparently, but it's not clear at all after bishop e4, king c1, and then queen takes bishop check. I mean, just completely ludicrous position. So queen e7 is what he goes for, and then rook d8, and then he plays f3, disconnecting the bishop from the queen and giving his king a little bit of escape room. Now, Black cannot just sack. On the one hand, you think you can just sacrifice pieces and checkmate people. On the other hand, there is this. And when you're up material, the best thing to do is to simplify. Once you trade off the queens, Black will never mate you. So Apaydin plays bishop e4, which is a very funny move, because you cannot take it because of this, right? So Hikaru's like, well, obviously I'm not going to do that, but I will trade rooks with you. And now that I've traded one of your pieces, it's going to be a lot harder for you to mate me, right? The other thing is, Hikaru here has 2 pawns on the queen side. All right, those 2 pawns on the queen side are potentially going to be, oh my goodness. Powering through this recap. Hopefully that's the last time. Those pawns on the queen side, listen, feeling good, feeling bad, these recaps always have to come, all right? You guys come first. So I got to make the recaps no matter what. I can drink my tea and take my cough drops later. The 2-on-1 on the queen side is what Hikaru is going to use to win this position. He's got the 2-on-1 over there. I am willing to bet that if these pawns get rolling, he's going to win this game. All right? So Biden tries to, create his own kind of stuff over here. But Hikaru's very solid, gets his king enough breathing room. By the way, Hikaru's played this whole game with no bishop. Can I just say this? Okay, now he moves it. But he played 38 moves without moving a piece. That's pretty cool. Centralizes the queen, hides the king, protects the king. Now black is coming in, right? Black is coming in. Hikaru's waiting for his moment. He is waiting for Biden to slightly overextend, get this pawn a little bit too far, and then the 2-on-1 is going to move. He hasn't had a chance to do it yet because Biden is very quick with his counterplay. But now with no queens, this is an entirely different endgame. We have bishop c6, and now we have b4, and here come the pawns. This might be a draw, this might be winning, but Hikaru has to go for it. a4, and now as the king goes that way, here comes f5. Uh-oh, the black king has to choose which way he's going. The black king has to choose. That's it. It's a totally split position. He goes this way, Hikaru pushes that pawn, the bishop goes and protects it. We have bishop d3, and now I'm threatening. And what's going to happen is, the way to win this with white, the only way to win this with white, as everything is stretched too thin, is deflecting the bishop away from the protection of one of the 2 squares, and then queening. The other thing you can do here with white, like let's say h3, is you're going to have to bring the king. You freeze the black position, you bring the king, you win this pawn, and then you go. But Biden goes out with a bang. a8 rook from Hikaru, and he gets a win. A massive win. It cannot be understated what kind of a win this is. It doesn't really matter what he promoted to in terms of queen or rook. It does matter if he made a knight. I don't think he's winning. I think this is actually now a drawn endgame. So he makes a rook, because after it takes, there is f7. And this is just, unbelievable stuff from Hikaru. He has now won 2 games in a row. He is the leader of the group. He just awaits the result of Aranyan Yesipenko. This one was a main line Rogozin. So bishop b4, very common and popular Queen's Gambit declined. e3, bishop d2. So not a common variation from Levon. He doesn't play one of the main lines, which is bishop to g5 or queen a4 check. He plays a very solid line, not compromising his structure. And actually, he had a very similar position against Hikaru. Yesipenko did, when Hikaru played castles in 95. So this sort of became a transposition. But we have queen c2, a3, and here Levon goes knight g5, threatening bishop takes h7, which leads to mate. We have g6, and my man Levon plays h4. He is not here to mess around. He has pointed his cannon this way. This is targeting these pawns. The rook is still on the h-file. If you ever have a rook on the same file like this as a king that's castled, you can always throw your h-pawn, and you can send your king in the other way. He tries to counterattack on this side of the board. Here comes h5. He tries to, this is a very brave move, because you have 2 things supporting this. When you play h6 and then grab this, you better be damn sure that this pawn, which has now ruined the safety of your king, is worth allowing in. Because Levon does not hesitate. He brings in the bishop and the queen. He doesn't take the rook. This rook is not worth as much as this bishop. But Levy, rooks are 5 points. Not that rook. This is a 2-point rook. Queen f5 comes in. If you try to kick the queen out, I will take this pawn. I will check you. I will get in with my knight and my bishop, and the game is over. So bishop g7, and what did I just say? Here comes e4. No castling necessary for Levon, as he has now activated another piece that's going to go to g5. Now he picks up the rook, only because when the queen takes, it no longer defends the middle. Levon butchers down the defenses of Yesipenko. And on move 23, Yesipenko resigns. I don't think we have seen a demolition quite like this in Grand Prix, at all. And all was revealed to us after the game. You know what happened? Andrei thought today he was playing Hikaru. Yes, He thought he was not playing Levon. How does that happen? How does that happen? Well, let me tell you how it happens. I mean, on the one hand, it is absolutely the responsibility of the player. On the other hand, this is the order of the games. The first 3 games Yesipenko played, and this is for everybody, Aparin, Hikaru, Levon, which means that his next 3 games should be Aparin, Hikaru, Levon. Why would it not be the same 3? But for whatever reason, they flipped the pairings on the last 2 days. So his pairings were Aparin, Hikaru, Levon, Aparin, Levon, Hikaru. What? Huh? And this is for everybody. So like Hikaru's pairings are Levon, Yesipenko, Aparin, Aronian, Aparin, Yesipenko. Like they flipped them. I don't know why they flipped the second and the third players. So some of these players are like, oh, I got to play these 3 guys in a row. It's not the case. They flipped the, I don't know. On the one hand, it's completely the responsibility of the player. On the other hand, that's just very weird. So folks, this means that going into the final day, which actually started about an hour ago, because I'm recording this recap a little bit late. This means that Levon and Hikaru are tied for first place with 1 game to go. They both have black in the final round against both these guys from Russia. If Aparin wins with white, he wins the group, and Hikaru doesn't win. So crazy. I mean, absolutely insane. We're going to take a small detour now to groups D and B. In Group D, Vityugov and Anish played a Queen's Gambit declined, like a main line, but in exchange on F6. Not a very common thing to see nowadays. And actually, Vityugov played very interesting. He played H4, just like we saw Hikaru play. And oftentimes in these positions, you know, white plays G4, G5, just tries to completely bulldoze black off the board. But then he castled. I mean, this is just, I mean, it's incredible that you can play like this. That you can castle while also playing H4. Giri just very solidly protected his position from Vityugov, broke out with C5. This is very important. Traded some pieces and had absolutely no problems. They traded into a queen and, yeah, they traded just into a bishop endgame and made a very quick draw, which really begs the question, why would Vityugov play H4? This blows my mind. Like, H4 is a move, like, I'm going to beat you. I will defeat you and there's nothing you can do about this. You're trash. You're mega trash, actually. Galaxy levels of trash. And then just plays like normal, as if, like, I mean, honestly, right? It's like the dude, like, set something on fire and threw it at the guy and then was like, oh, yeah, what's up? You want to get coffee tomorrow? Like, huh? That's not normal. So they make a draw. The other matchup of Group D was Tabata Bey versus Yu Yangi. This one was actually a Rogozin as well. We just saw this. E3, Bishop D2 from Levon. Here we have A3. Also not a very common Rogozin at all, because A3 is like not a move you need to ever make because black was always going to take you. And this one got really weird because Tabata Bey just gave him the C3 pawn. He just gave him the pawn and played a gambit style. I mean, he basically played this in a style where his bishops will come out and he's going to use the pawn that he's down to create some counterplay. In fact, he's going to walk his king out of a check with king E2. White is actually much better here. Down a pawn, but about plus 1.3. So white is much, much better. Tabata Bey is trying to win Group D. I mean, my man is not messing around. He won a very nice game the other day, and he has a, he has a firm grasp up top. Now here he messes up. Bishop C6 gives back all of the advantage. The best move here was F3. He had to kick the knight out of the middle, not be afraid of sacrificing yet another pawn, because king E3, gangster move. If the knight goes back to F6, black cannot castle. So you can just play king F2 now that the knight is gone, and apparently white is just winning because black just can't castle at all. Black's king is completely stranded in the middle of the board. Black's best move here, according to Stockfish, is king to D8, which is just absurd. So he has this moment, but he doesn't calculate it fully. And now, look at this. Yu Yangi uses the sacrifice C-pawn to put this bishop under some pressure. And as you can imagine, these games usually liquidate. This game did not liquidate. It became a pretty complicated middle game fight. But Tabata Bey no longer has any attacking chances. By the way, look at Tabata Bey's pieces. They're all on dark squares. Incredible. Every piece is on dark square. Really trying to make this light squared bishop feel a bit jealous because he just can't participate whatsoever. Okay, now we have some trades. Yu Yangi continued to apply pressure and actually got a completely winning position. This is now move 33, and Tabata Bey is really paying the price for putting his king directly in the middle. It's -3. Yu Yangi now has a chance to beat the group leader and take the group lead himself. So how is he going to do it? How is he going to do it? He's going to do it by getting into time trouble and getting into an endgame that he is still winning. He's still winning, all right? And now on move 40, he gets his extra time, but the problem is, so white now got the A-pawn here. So Tabatabai does a great job giving himself an opportunity to actually save this position, and he just walks his king forward. He's like, all right, good luck. Good luck trying to beat me. My king is all the way over here. Let's repeat moves. Now, up. Right, just getting out of the way of the checks. Stockfish would beat a human here. Stockfish thinks this is still, after something like bishop c6, it thinks it's -3 for black. So it thinks it's completely winning. It thinks that this king is too weak, thinks that these pawns are too good, and Stockfish thinks it'll find a way to stop this pawn from queening. But Yu Yangyi is not Stockfish. And I mean, he just gets harassed this entire endgame with this king. He picks up the pawn on g3, and he's like, all right, let's go. All right, now I'm winning. Queen g2, I'm making progress, right? h4, it's -5. Yu Yangyi has done everything. He's done a full impression of Stockfish up to this point. -5. Great job with the pawns on a7, h3. But only one guy's pawn is going to queen, right? Only one guy's pawn. Check. Okay, I block. Queen f6, h2. All of a sudden, I sacrifice this, and I have queen h4, and it's a draw. Wait, what? In this position, apparently the move that was completely winning is queen e4. Keeping an eye on this, making sure there are always checks on the back rank, and then being patient and cutting off queen h4 completely. Queen e4 wins on the spot. But in this position, he had to play check first, apparently, the only move. Then take, and then run his king out of the checks. But because he took, now it's a draw. If king g7, then there is the incredible knight sacrifice, and black's king is in a box. Black is up 3 pawns and a bishop in an endgame, but cannot escape perpetual check because the king is in a box. I mean, what kind of a cruel joke is this? This is insanity. And Tabatabai saves the day. That rhymed. Tabatabai saves the day. It's insane. Look at this position. Yu Yangyi throws away a golden opportunity. And after 5 games, the whole group is tied. Every player in Group D has 2.5 out of 5. It comes down to all of their final games. So Group D is up in the air. All right, we go to Group B. Don't go anywhere. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Here we have a Ruy Lopez, a very common line that Shak plays all the time. He plays this kind of open Spanish where he takes on e4, plays d5. Complicated position, but oftentimes what happens here is through all the tension, the players end up just kind of trading the pieces off. And I mean, it looked like Linier had a very interesting pressure going with the bishop and, you know, all of this, but yeah, not too much happened in this game. I mean, a very forcing line. Queens came off, bishops trade, pawns, and rooks, and they made a draw in move 36. That sometimes is what happens. I mean, there are very deep intricacies we can dive into here with this Ruy, and you know the novelties and all this, but it's a very, very forcing system. And this was probably the most complicated position that existed when white had the bishop pair and black had this massive blob of pawns. White was able to get in to the blob and get the e6 pawn, but because black is just so active, the rooks on the f-file are so powerful that it was worth sacrificing the pawn on c5 because you can win the pawn on b2, but moreover, you can even like go after the queen. So, you know, Linier decided he had enough. The queens came off, everything came off, and yeah, that's sometimes how it goes. And that's, sorry. The other game of Group B, Daniil Dubov versus Keimer. Keimer is having a great time in Group B. He's about a half a point behind the leaders, Mamedyarov and Linier. So he's looking to make a push here. He plays an Arkhangelsk versus Daniil Dubov. And I mean, look at this. This is wild stuff. Dubov, even though he's having a rough event, given everything that's obviously going on in Russia, he's talked about even playing himself, playing the games while feeling completely depressed in this event. I mean, you got to feel for the guy. You got to feel for the Ukrainians too, though. I mean, let's be honest. There's no Ukrainians playing, but just in general. D4, Dubov is still, despite all this, going to play some interesting chess, and so he plays the move D4. And then he plays knight D2. This is incredible. Look at this. Hanging knight, but not even taking the bishop, because if e takes f3, he wants to take with the queen, so two things are hanging. So he takes the knight, gets out with the queen, and plays knight e4. I mean, Dubov is just uncorking some wild stuff here on poor Keimer. Bishop g5. Black is up a pawn, but if you take on e4, you lose the game, right? Because I'm threatening mate and e7, so you just lose. That doesn't work. So Keimer here has to play very tight defense. We have knight takes f6, rook e8, queen f5, threatening to take on h7. Look at this incredible move from Keimer. d3, a quick disconnection of the forces, which after bishop d3, he grabs the bishop on g5. Because check, and he's like, I'm going to run. I don't care. We have rook e1 from Dubov, cutting off the defense. Queen h8 is made. The only way to stop it is to move the f-pawn forward. Again, temporarily dislodging the queen from the defense of the bishop. We have bishop takes f5 now. Rook b6. The rook is ready to come protect the king, but it's too slow. And now Dubov plays bishop back to c2. His idea is to reroute and hit the bishop from the other diagonal. Now, apparently here, queen h5 leads to a draw. Bishop c2 continues the game. Queen back to h3, and now rook h6, and Keimer is winning. Keimer safeguards his king, but Dubov is not done. He now trades off the bishop. Now, it's a bishop for 3 pawns. Dubov has 3 extra pawns in this position, and he begins to smash that queen side. He's like, all right, Keimer, if you play b takes a4, I got check, I'm going to pick this up. Keimer doesn't do that. We have this, and now Dubov has 4 extra pawns. If anybody is trying to beat anybody here, it's the guy who has 4 extra pawns. The bishop is great, but it can't do much, right? So Keimer has to defend this. Now, you don't necessarily want to go for rook and 5 versus rook bishop pawn, because pawns are slow. They can't all go up, right? So queen f3, right? And he tries to defend himself. And here, this is kind of the issue, is that even though Dubov does have 4 pawns, he can't really move them that fast. Why? Well, let's say he plays b4, because now you have a weakness. You move this up, now you have a weakness. c5, bishop f6. How do you move the pawns? If you play c6 here, I'm going to go here. You have a tough time defending this. Rook b7, king e6, b5. I mean, you just can't move. I go after this pawn. Bishop is just so fast. Zing, zoom, zoom, and now he takes the pawn on g3. So king h3, and that's exactly what happens. The bishop hangs out in the middle. Dubov decides to give away 1 pawn and just go over here. Keimer doesn't blunder checkmate. And yeah, now, I mean, the f4 pawn's under fire, and we have a stalemate. Not a stalemate in the traditional sense of you can't win it, you can't move at all. But, you know, you can move. Just anywhere you move, you're surrendering something. So the players agree to a draw here, because king f3, bishop c1, king g4. I mean, you cannot. Black has the spot of optimal defense. Very complicated game, but one that ends in a draw. What are you going to do? I mean, sometimes that's just, right, that's what happens. Unlike the other game, which sort of just petered out, this was a very complex battle, and Dominguez and Mamedyarov lead Group B with 3 out of 5. Keimer has 2.5. Also could come down to the final round. It really could. So, we have 2 more games. All right, so we have MVL versus Wesley So. This one was insane because MVL played into a Nimso with white and played f3. MVL does not play this, ever. He doesn't play this, okay? He does not play this opening ever. He doesn't play d4. But he plays a Nimso, and we get an insane position. So we get Wesley smashing the queen side, right? 92 bc4. And this crazy position where MVL is trying to suppress the movement of the pieces over here and play knight g3, g5. But here comes h5. The flank counter shot from Wesley So as he is a pawn up. I mean, MVL is really going for it. He's playing something he never plays because he knows he has to win. He has to imbalance the position, all right? So Wesley is going after that pawn on c3 and the queen side. We trade, and the knight goes back, and black has finally slowed down the white initiative. The best way to play sometimes here is like awkward moves like h3, just holding the balance, not letting the pieces move. But MVL tries to create something, but Wesley is outflanking him, right? Castles on move 19 by white, and a very simple rook b8. And it's very clear what's going to happen here. Black is going to try to get in over there. As long as black can stop white from successfully attacking here, black will win because black dominates the queen side. Right, we have gf5, Rook f5. MVL's trying. Now here comes, I mean, oh my goodness. The black queen is playing an imposter. I mean, this is where the white queen is supposed to stand. That is not supposed to happen. The queen is in and is like, what's up? King's got to move, or you have to block with the rook. But look at this move. The anchor, the c-pawn, trading in to hit this and bring in the knight. And the knight's trapped. Knight's dead. So queen d3 is a killer move. Queen slides back. And look at this gangster move from Wesley. Queen takes e4, allowing queen f7 and moving out of the way. By the way, it's gangster, but the best move was just f6. f6, and if gf6, you have rook g8, not to mention you have this. So slight inaccuracy, but still gangster move, king d8. And he trades queens and plays rook b5. And it's the same situation. The black pieces have swarmed, and the middle of the board here, you got the 3-on-1. You can get rolling, and MVL's in deep trouble. Wesley trades rooks, gives away a pawn, but trades rooks, but immediately gets his other rook involved. And this endgame comes down to two things. Pawn mobility, piece mobility. The black pieces are faster than the white pieces, but it's mostly, it's the knights, obviously, but it's the pawns too. I mean, the pawns are so strong, and the king and the knight and everybody. Look at how quickly Wesley just gets into MVL's position. MVL tries to sack a pawn to get a little bit of counterplay, but he's just too fast. Rook h1, h7, kicks out the rook, king g6, scoops up the pawn. It's like Wesley was a step ahead the entire game. And MVL, as daring as he was to go into an opening he's never played before, he takes a gamble. It does not pay off. And Wesley wins a humongous game with black. It cannot be understated what this win means. All right? This is a giant win. A giant win. And now he's set up. If he wins the next round, he's going to win the group. So Wesley with black winning in a Nimso Indian on demand versus MVL, who was making a run after beating Pretka, and this sets us up for the final game of the day between Pretka and Shanklin. This one was a symmetrical English, which Shanklin broke very early by playing Grunfeld style with d5 and maybe g6. All right, we have takes, b3, and a position where black's queen is out and therefore becomes a target, but it's actually not so bad because black's activity here counteracts the fact that his queen is out, right? And he plays bishop d3. Bishop d3 is a hilarious move. You're basically trying to physically blockade the white position from making any progress, so there's no d2, d4. You're like, you just can't make progress. And then I'm going to go, maybe long castle, maybe bishop e7, something. That's what I'm going to do. So rook c1, rook d8, b4. This is a wild move. Look at Pretka, just sacrificing a pawn on the edge of the board to try to play knight e5, open this up, get the queen on a4. Knight takes b4, also possible, but then knight e5 and the same idea. So Shanklin doesn't even take it. He's like, no, queen b5. I'm done with this blockade, but now I have the pin on the pawn onto the bishop. And now I'm going to take. So Shanklin's a pawn up, but this bishop on b2 is a beast, right? Queen c2. Shanklin plays f6. The point of f6 is to block the bishop from seeing this, and now I'm ready to finish my development. I'm ready to give you the c-pawn, but then I have this. So Shanklin's position is just in time to hold everything. Here, Pretka can throw d5. d5 is a crazy stockfish move. Can't take like this because the rook hangs. If you take like this, rook fd1, and I'm laser beaming you down the middle of the board. Might also have queen a4 here to try to get to a7. So rook fd1, e4, and look at Shanklin. Hiding behind the e and f pawns with the king, and 20 moves into this game, black's up a pawn. This is what happens when with white, you try to get a little too creative. b4 is a very daring move, but if you cannot justify the pawn sacrifice, black is like, boop, and I'm gonna run. It's like how Benji, if you leave him unattended, he's gonna take a shoe and take it outside. All right, that's what he does. So Shanklin here takes that shoe and is running outside to munch on it under the sun. There probably could have been better examples, but that's basically the equivalent until I go get him and I yell at him, which I actually am realizing he's not penned and he's downstairs. I might need to finish this recap and make sure he hasn't destroyed the house. Pretka here has to get desperate. All right, he's got to be as aggressive as possible, but Shanklin's now 2 pawns up. Crazy. Great prep by Shanklin to protect the white position from ever expanding. Gets Pretka to commit to a sacrifice. Now he just has to consolidate being up 2 pawns, and then he has to take over this game. He is now 3 pawns up. Do the math. And he gives one away with check, but now the king is safe, and he just moves straight forward. I mean, Pretka gets even more desperate, tries to sacrifice material, but this is just not going to work. I mean, bishop f8, great defense by Sam, And folks, Sam Shanklin has also won his game. He has 3 out of 5, tied with Wesley So. This is crazy. 2 games won with black in Group C. Group A is anybody's game. I mean, anybody's game. Levon and Hikaru tied for first, both with black. Biden can beat Levon to take the lead. Everybody in Group D is tied, and 3 people can win Group B. Oh my goodness. I will see you all for round number 6. Get out of here.